Hi there, it's real estate coach Josh Fegan, and in today's coaching tip, we're going to talk about how you need to charge what you're worth and be worth what you charge. Now, there's no doubt that the real estate industry is trying to find a new level as we have new entrants entering the marketplace, with a lot of fixed fee environments now talking about what happens to our flexible fees as estate agents. Well, you know what? I know that in every marketplace, you need to make sure that you've actually got a reject shop and a Louis Vuitton. And what's really important is for you to understand where you actually sit in the marketplace. Now, what a lot of people don't really understand is that the difference between a fee discounter and someone who's in a position that they charge a full fee is ultimately about what they do for the customer. So what is the job that you actually get done for the customer? You see, I'm a believer that a great real estate agent actually helps people to make much better decisions, and that in order to make those better decisions, they really stay focused on delivering on the customer experience curve. So what is this customer experience curve, and how can you make it better as an estate agent? Well, it really starts from the first point of contact when we get to meet the consumer. And that could be as simple as an inquiry that comes through online. It might be the way that we meet someone and open for inspection, all the way down to what it is that we do when we actually receive that incoming call and someone says that they'd like us to come out and come and do a market appraisal on their home. Now, what I know is really important is that what we're looking at here is the delivery of service. And how do we make that customer feel when we actually get on the phone and have that conversation? Now, in order to be able to perfect this, what we want to do is we want to minimize the variance in that delivery of service. So whether or not it be one consumer or another, that they're actually getting the same style of questions and the same experience from us and our estate agency. And this is all about having standards which are actually facilitated through systems around what it is that we're going to be doing in order to have that perfect customer experience. Now, that simple thing might start with the market appraisal form. On the market appraisal form, we have the essential 5, 6, 7, 8 questions that we might be asking those consumers. Now, there's 200 questions that we could ask, but what are the best questions that really give us the mileage? So they might be simple things like, are you currently living in the home? Have you sold your property before? Did you have any expectations on price? And have you made any improvements to the home since you purchased it? Now, getting the answers to those 4 questions could change the entire way that you're going to be doing the pitch. At the end of that call, it's also important to then set up the next lines of communication. I'd love to send you maybe just a confirmation of our appointment time. I could do that via a calendar invite. I could send you an SMS or just a simple email. What would be best for you? And what actually starts to happen now is we're now starting to set that quality experience from the consumer's perspective around what it is that we're going to do to really assist in the process. Now, what we might like to do is to forward some information prior to the meeting. Now, that might be called a pre-list kit internally, but is that what we actually say when we're working with the consumer? And so what we do is we get to ask some simple questions here. Would you like me to forward some information prior to the meeting just to make the best use of our time? We've got a short video for about 1.5 minutes, or I can drop down a little booklet that we like to give people on how to maximize the value of their home. What would be better for you? Now you have the opportunity to forward a video, which might actually have some customer testimonials about what you do as an estate agent. What then happens is we're going down to the property. It's really important that we have a look at the recent sales and properties that are also currently on the marketplace, because we know that all pricing is a factor of both demand and supply in the market. It's critical that we then think about what we do before we get to the meeting, making sure that we're clear about the marketplace, understanding new market dynamics, but also too what we need to be doing in order to be able to help these people to make a much better decision. And that's a really important part. We might be dealing with an influencer, or we might be dealing with a person who's actually going to be signing the agency agreement. So how do we empower them through the course of the process? When we get to the end of the presentation, it's really important now that we then set up a clear line of communication. And this is where I like to ask people some really simple questions. Hannah, how could I help you from here? You know, what would be our next point of contact? And what would you like me to do to make sure that I'm of use to you? What this does is it lets the consumer tell you where they're at in the consumer decision-making process, so then you can identify what the next steps might be. Now, what I want you to think about is that we've really changed the way that we work with consumers today in other industries, and it's about time that the real estate industry caught up. Let me give you an example of this. Let's say, for example, that you went online and you went to go and buy a product or a service. Have you ever noticed that that product or service then follows you everywhere you go on other websites for the course of the next few days? And that's interestingly what we call retargeting. Now, here's an idea. What would happen if after you've been to a market appraisal, you then went and added those people to a Facebook or a Google custom audience, and then you then started serving them ads and or video content about what they could do to maximize their sale price? What would then happen if you had another video on what it's like to sell with you? Now, why this is critically important is we're looking to retouch the consumer and to retarget them post our meeting. So now they're starting to get that brand experience. You see, all of these things aren't random sequence of events. What they are is it's a clearly defined path from when we meet the consumer until we get to the point of signing the agency agreement. That's really important because that actually sets that minimum level of service. And that's what I think is really important inside of business today. When you look at businesses like McDonald's, one of their core values was about cleanliness of their organization, and the second one was about speed of product. How quickly could they get that hamburger into your hand from that moment of purchase? And this is exactly the same thing. What are you actually known for in your marketplace? And when people think about your brand and how you actually work in real estate, what do they perceive? What do they think? Do they think that you're the high quality brand, or are you the cheap and nasty of the marketplace? Now, it doesn't matter which one you are, but what is really important is that you don't start pricing yourself off the cheap and nasty if you're actually in a position of delivering that premium service. And most people don't really think about pricing. And what I'm going to say to you is this, is that the pricing of your services is the quickest way to go broke or the quickest way to make extreme profits. So get clear about what you deliver to the customer, what your experience curve is, so that you can ensure that you maximize your fee and make plenty of profit so you can provide a better resource and a better service to your customers. I really hope you've enjoyed this week's coaching tip, and I look forward to seeing you next week.